When I lived in Boston, I used to catch the T. That's the subway system. We lived in Quincy, Mass. And I would travel to Cambridge every day on the red line. The conductor on the red line would say on a pretty regular basis which stop was coming up. Next stop, Braintree. Next stop, Quincy. Next stop, MIT. Next stop, Downtown Crossing. Next stop, Harvard Square. I tried to throw in my Boston accent, so y'all missed that. And I want to submit you today that, like that conductor, God is saying to his church, St. Paul, next stop, greater. The next stop is greater. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, the next stop is greater. Now, some of you have gotten accustomed to the next stop being misery, the next stop being frustration, and the next stop being depression, and the next stop being problems and issues, or even the next stop being all right, or the next stop being mediocrity, or the next stop being good, even the next stop being great. But God is saying, the next stop for you folk, up in here, is greater. And if you believe that in your spirit, give God some praise for greater. And understand, this text, we are familiar with this text. Hebrews, the 12th chapter, verse 1 through 3, is a call to greater. This text is a call to greater. Not great, but greater. Not good, but greater. Understand that in chapter 11, that is Paul's dissertation in faith. That's his dissertation. Verse 1, he defines faith. As we all know, faith is what? The substance of things, so forth, the evidence of things not seen. And then he goes on to lay out a list of heroes and sheroes whose faith allowed them to achieve greatness. And then when you look at verse 1 of chapter 12, he even acknowledges that list of heroes by referring to as what? A great cloud of witnesses. Great. Yes. But if you go back to chapter 11, verse 40, he talks not about the cloud of witnesses, he's speaking to the readers. And he says this to the readers. God had planned something better for us. All right. Something better. So the cloud of witnesses are great. And he has better. What does that imply? The next stop is greater. The next stop, no longer do you have to settle for average in your life, in your spiritual journey. No longer do you need to look. God is saying, I have greater for you. This is a call to greater. A call to greater. And not only does he make that case with those verses, but if you notice, in verse 1, see, verse 1 in chapter 12 could have been a continuation of chapter 11. It's a conjunction, junction, what's your function? Looking up the word. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. He said, therefore. It could have been a continuation, so it could have gone on to be verse 41 and verse 42, but Paul does something here. He celebrates history, the fathers of our faith, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Sarah, and Esther, the prophets. He celebrates their journey and their faith. But he makes this demarcation. And in other words, what he's doing, he's ending and it's beginning. But understand what Paul is really trying to get us to see. I don't want you to rest in your history. I need you to make history. So I need to move you from chapter 11 and get you to chapter 12. I want you to remember Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I want you to remember Sarah. I want you to remember David. I want you to remember Moses. I want you to remember Noah.